Good evening to everyone watching and everyone in the chat. Welcome to the Has&Haz fan fan calling show. It's another episode and still plenty of things to talk about despite the international break. Just before we get started, just want to thank everyone for tuning in. Make sure you have smashed that like button. If you are new to the channel, please make sure you subscribe to the channel and check out what's coming up in the future. Right, so plenty to get cracking into, let's say, but I will get our first guest onto the show. It's none other than Mr. Adrian Stroker, and ever present on the show. Welcome, Adrian, to the show again tonight. How have you been?
Fine, thank you. I don't like the heat, I've got to be honest, but thanks for the invite. Thanks for letting me come on and express an opinion on all things Spurs, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, you can be Has for the night because he seems to be missing tonight. So okay. We'll call you Has tonight, and I'll be Has, obviously. But yeah, look, getting onto football matters. Obviously, we had a very good result, obviously, against the likes of Burnley. Yeah, absolutely put them to the sword, and then it's that dreaded international break. Just when you're on a good run of form, as is always the case, you know. Yeah, 3 or 4 good games, and then a dreaded international break comes, and then you're sort of crossing your fingers that everyone comes back safe and well, and there's no injuries picked up during the international break. But let's talk about that Burnley game first of all, because it was a fantastic game, and Ange made the biggest change that we've all been asking for since day one when the season started, and that was up top. Moving Sonny into the middle in that 9 position. Before that game, did you expect to see Son playing up top, or did you expect to see the same team coming out for the Burnley game?
Well, trying to read between the lines, I always consider. I mean, like looking at the Brentford game, looking at the Brentford game when they had a low block. I mean, obviously everyone's sort of not happy with Richarlison, but I still see him. I mean, he's not going to be binned. I mean, like if we have games where Son's down the middle, he's got his back to goal and there's a low block, we might need a physical presence in the field, unless you switch someone else there, So a bit early for Velez. You might see him after January, probably. You might get a run in. All depends how we're doing, of course, But another option, I mean, I've always thought I've seen Decky as a number 10. I mean, like, during that game, what I noticed with him is I am a fan. I know he's got his critics because, like, the first season when he got all them assists and goals, and he hasn't really hit his straps in that part of his game, which is what fans are judging him by more than all the balls he wings back, all his hold-up play. He's always the out ball on the right, especially with Son's in the middle and Richarlison's not in the field, because he can hold it up, and he's not slow. I mean, people say, oh, he's slow. I like to say Son's slow. He's not slow. They're not slow. You're running with the ball. You've got the ball. You've got a defender without the ball. So, so worked well in the middle, didn't it? You've got to give a shout out for Manor Solomon and Udogie. I mean, he's got to be the best left back in the league, isn't he, on present form? The guy's just a tank going there. He's 20 years of age, 20, and doing that, So, I mean, we know what you get from Maddison and Basuma, but when you look at these young kids, even Van der Ven, or I think he's had to pull out the Dutch squad. I hope it's not serious. He's had to leave the squad, I think. So, no. Solomon, well, we see a bit more of him, didn't we? Because the fleeting glimpses we've seen him on the right, we know he's tricky winger, can go past people. What we didn't know before Burnley, that he's got them assists in him and he can bring people into the game, which is fun. So he might have an incredible ceiling, because at Shakhtar Donetsk, before Chelsea paid all that money for Mudryk, he kept him out the team.
That's a very, very good point, mate, Adrian. Very good point. And I think it's a point that's really overlooked by everyone because he's coming on a free. Now, generally, people that come in on a free or players that come in on a free, they're labelled under that tag, oh, it's a free signing, it can't be that good sort of thing. We've seen it before with other free signings at other clubs. He done really well at Fulham, if I'm being honest with you, when he came over to Fulham on loan. I thought he was fantastic when he made his cameo appearances. So for me, on a free, not only, it's not really a massive gamble, is it? I know you're paying his wage and everything else, but it's a free, so to speak. But I'll bring Haz into it. Welcome, Haz.
Yeah, you're right. Sorry I was late. I had to do some watching up before I came.
It's all good. Obviously, other things take precedence over the Has&Haz Show. But
I ordered a takeaway, right? It was like half an hour late. So I ended up eating at like 8:30.
Well, you can't do the show if you don't eat. No, Haz, we've just been talking about, the good run of form we've been on. 4 games in, we've had 4 great results. And team is playing well. We've moved Sonny up into the middle. And then that international break comes. Just when you want to carry that momentum, keep it going. The international break comes. And we're all thinking, we just want these players to come back now so we can continue in the same vein. And, of course, we want them to come back fit and healthy with no injuries. We all know Udogie had to be withdrawn from his squad because he was feeling sick. So, hopefully, there's nothing wrong there. And as Adrian mentioned as well, Van der Ven had to pull out as well. Hopefully, that's just as a precaution, just to, make sure that he's fit and healthy when he comes back to Tottenham. But what's your general feeling on it? And also, I'm going to touch on the Son starting in the middle part as well.
Yeah, I know, because there's been a lot to talk about that. So for me, international breaks, I find them quite boring just in general because I don't tend to not watch international football unless it's the Euros, the World Cup. So I might follow certain games on my phone and see what the scores are. Like Netherlands are playing Greece right now, so I kind of follow to see what's going on with that game. But in terms of that,
they're down 3-0.
Yeah. But you know what I'm trying to say is, and I don't really take that much interest. But in terms of us as Spurs, I say I used to hate international breaks when playing well. I hate international breaks. When playing badly, I like international breaks. But right now we're unbeaten, so it's come the worst time. Also, I think at the start of the season we wouldn't have expected to be in this position where we have 10 points from these first 4 games, and I think this international break is like a bad thing. Now we're looking at it as like a bad thing because we're on this run. So, but we've got Sheffield United away afterwards. As long as all our players, especially the defenders like Van de Ven, that's quite worrying for me, come back fit, then we'll all be all right. But if Van de Ven's got like a serious injury, or if Romero picks up something, I don't think Argentina are playing, or even any of the back 4, if I'm being honest, but especially the centre halves, I think I'd be quite worried against Sheffield United already, because the one place we don't have cover or in the transfer window was the centre half. Okay, we bring Van de Ven in, but if he gets a knock or Romero gets a knock, I think we're in trouble.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely correct, because you know, you want all your players to come back. I'm hoping Van de Ven is just a precaution. The club would have spoken to the Dutch national team or the Dutch FA to say, look, you know, I don't want to risk the player. He's important to us, and we've not got cover in that area. So sometimes, you know, club does come, you know, first over country, and I think that's what might be the case with Tottenham and the Dutch team. Same with Dogi as well, but his one's obviously just feeling sick. That's the reason why he's been withdrawn. But it's always a risk. It's always a risk, and we've got it to come with Maddison as well.
That's another big one for me. If he gets something,
I think you have to start Maddison with Kane on Saturday night. There's no 2 ways about it. The form that he's in, and you know, the supply line that Harry will be getting from Maddison in that England team would be absolutely insane. But look, hopefully they will come back. But I just want to talk about, I mean, Adrian mentioned earlier on about Son playing down the middle ahead of Richarlison, and, you know, Richarlison's limits and everything else. Did you see it as a good move, and do you see it being, you know, enforced through the rest of the season?
Well, obviously the first game he's played, they scored a hat-trick, so you can't not do it next game against Sheffield United, regardless of whoever's back, or if Richarlison even gets some goals for Brazil. I still stick with that front 3, Solomon, Kulusevski and Son, unless he wants to chuck in Brennan Johnson for Kulusevski straight off the bat, which I'll be quite surprised about, if I'm honest, especially the way Solomon's been bedded in. It was his first start last week. So, I mean, I'd like to see Johnson, Son and Solomon as a 3 to see what it would look like actually now, because of Kulusevski struggles. But
Johnson.
Yeah. It's like Son. That's what I think. Yeah. But looking at Son, right? So I always bring this back to when Bale came back to Spurs, and I hope that people don't take this the wrong way. So when Bale came back to Tottenham, he was good in like small spurts, or like he came on as a sub and he scored like 3 goals. But even for Real Madrid, Bale, when he aged, he kind of played more through the middle, as we saw in like the Champions League final. I think he was playing through the middle, wasn't he, that game? Yeah. So obviously, the loss of pace does force these players to play further inside anyway. So Son's best position for me is always going to be in the middle now, because I don't think he can function on the left, no matter what statistics anyone tells you. I don't think he does looks right there. I don't think he's the same player he was on the left as he was in the past. When I see him play, it's just not the same. But the thing with Son is, and hope people don't take a negative, when Kane was out in the Poch years and when we had other injuries and striker, he always came in and did like a job for 4 or 5 games. Now the question is, can he now do that job over like a longer period of time when now he's like the main man? Obviously, when Kane was like on his strike or whatever it was in Nuno's first few games, Son was playing as a striker and he scored the win against City. I remember the first match. So like, he can do it. Yeah. It's just whether he can do it over like a longer period of time. And I know this is Son Richarlison debate, but I do think Solomon, for example, Solomon suits Son better than someone like Perisic, because Perisic is always going to put balls in quite high. I think
that's the thing. Son's not really renowned for heading the ball.
Yeah.
And Solomon's always going to play to feet and beat his man and get those little balls in, you know, little square balls, cutting it back. I just think, if we had someone like, let's say, your Vlahovic's of this world, or, you know, really good headers of the ball, I mean, Perisic crosses 9 times out of 10 is going to find someone's head, right? But
as like we eventually saw with Richarlison against Fulham. I know we did
yeah,
go through,
yeah.
But like I think Perisic and Richarlison are better pairing down that side, let's say. But I don't think Solomon and Richarlison work as well, or Solomon and Son is better pairing. Like as pairings, I'd see Solomon with Son or Perisic with Richarlison, because I think you play Solomon with Richarlison, I don't think it's as effective. On the right wing is an own issue. Like Kulusevski struggled, but that's how I see it. And I think you just have to play whoever's on form. I don't want to be here and say, oh, Son should start every game for the rest of the season, because there could be games where like you're playing like a certain side who are a lot taller. Like I'd rather see Richarlison play up front if we're going to have to deal with long balls and stuff like that and crosses and corners all game, rather than Son. That's just my opinion on it.
So you're saying basically switch between the two depending on who we're playing, if it's going to be a team
and form as well.
In.
Yeah, and form.
Yeah, I mean, Adrian, would you agree with that? I mean,
yeah, and whether other teams are playing a low block, you might want. You probably needed Richarlison in the middle against Brentford, because they played a low block, and Son with his back to goal is not the best. You know what I mean? So, but even if I'm wrong and I'm over praising Sonny, he's always got his goals. He's always been a streaky player. He gets goals in clusters, and then he don't score in clusters. He's not like an every other game goal scorer or 2 out of 3 game goal scorer like Kane is. Like. But the positive of this is the fact that under Ange's system, we are pushed further up the field. So say Son had lost half a yard of pace. It's not like he's got to beat the press at the halfway line and run onto the goal and be half a play. Yes, right? He should get more goals under this system, because he can be played in behind, down the sides of defenders, and played in behind. Everyone on that front three should get more goals. Even Kulu, I'm a big fan of Kulu, but he's got to start earning his keep as well, right? And so will Richarlison, because like you say, you got Brennan Johnson and you got Solomon. You know, Perisic could come back in, but apparently, with regard to Son being short, they were saying in training they're practicing like hitting a lot of low crosses into the box. Well, low crosses can cause chaos anyway, you know. And sometimes we're reluctant to put a cross in the box if there's only one player in there. But sometimes you can put a cross in the box and the defenders have still got to deal with it. That ball could go anywhere, you know. So you can get lucky on the way it comes out of the box. It might come to one of our players or whatever. So no, I think that's good. And the other really good thing about the system is, now that we've pushed up, I mean, Romero hasn't even got a booking. He's not having to defend in the right block for 90 minutes.
Absolutely right. Yeah.
He looks a class act now. I think Van der Ven's picked up one. He's been unlucky on the floor. 3 balls have gone off him, but none of us are going to blame him for any of them goals, right? So, and Van der Ven looks, I mean, like him and Udogie look like they've been playing out the years. You know,
I think Adrian, personally, the one who shot me the most, but bear in mind I haven't watched a lot of Serie A, so that's maybe why. But Udogie for me, because obviously he was billed as like a wing back when we signed him. For him to almost do the reverse of Conte and play as a left back and just get on with it as well, especially his age and especially what he was brought in for a certain system. So and his age, like I said, it's shocked me the most. Like the guy's just slotted in as if he's been playing there for like 2 years.
And he's not inverting like on Angie's system. You got Porro doing it on the other side, or if Emerson he's doing it. But no, let Udogie do what he's good at. Let him bomb up and down there, because he's a tank. You know, he's a tank going up and down that field, isn't he? I mean, so you leave him. I mean, he's also Angie's also got to decide. You see, Porro put 2 lovely forward balls through that game, one for Son's goal. On the first goal, then again, I mean, I've had my concerns about him, because defensively so far, he's looked better against Man United and all that. I don't want him to be lucky, do it for 2 or 3 games like Sanchez and then go backwards, right? But we know that he's technically better than Emerson, right? So even if he gets forward, because there was an interchanging with him and Kulusevski during the game as well on the right. So and then he was back. I thought he got caught static for when they broke for the goal. I mean, again, I've complained about 4 games. So I ain't going to mention again where he ain't looked over his shoulder and all that. But I don't know if it's a concentration or what, but like when you play football, you're forever like having a little glance, but you don't seem to do it for some reason, you know? So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. He said he admitted he's got to get better defensively, but obviously if you're going for technical players, you put him in ahead of Emerson all the time. But we know Emerson's going to get games, and it's going to be as we go for the season. I think whether Emerson or he plays will depend on how well we're playing and how good our form is at that particular time. If it's not so hot and we're worried, I think Emerson comes into the team. If we're struggling to hold the ball up front and you were playing Brennan Johnson up there instead of Kulu, you would bring Kulu back because he's so good at winning the ball back. He's got so many good defensive and progressing and against Brentford when he's on a touch, like one player struggling like hell to try and get the ball off him on the right hand side, on our right, So
yeah, I mean, look. First of all, I just want to say big up to everyone watching, everyone in the chat. Big yourselves up. What's
well done.
What's the point, FC? I just want to bring up what he said as well in the chat. He says the last game against Burnley showed Son is accepting his role as leader, and his interview afterwards even furthered that idea. And he goes on to say, I doubted Son at first as to his leadership qualities, but not everyone is a Roy Keane who'll do it in his own way. I mean, I just wanted to talk about Son and his captaincy first of all. I just wanted to gauge what you both thought when he was given the captain's armband and what you've made of his tenure as a captain so far. Because for me, I think he's slowly starting to mature into a leader. Yes, his interview, we all watched it yesterday. Or was it the day before? He spoke like, a true leader of men, that someone that looks like he's relishing that role of pulling everyone together. So for me, I think he's done a great job so far. I don't know what you guys think, but Haz, I'll start with you. Son's coming as captain. I know you had your reservations.
Yeah.
To start with, you wanted someone else to have the armband. I think you were sort of saying Skip.
So I want a central midfielder instead of half.
Which is quite ludicrous because Skip isn't even in the team. He's not even playing. Look, we'll forget about that one. It's fine, Haz. What would you make of Son's captaincy so far? Because I think he's done well. I think he's changed him as well as a player and a person as well. Because from what I can see, the whole team is picking up from the good vibes that he's giving off as someone that they can rely on, someone that they can, relate with. I just think it makes sense.
Oh, I think Son, in a sense, at the beginning, I still do have doubts. I think it's still early days for me because I'm sorry, it's too early to suddenly say he's suddenly like the best captain in the world that's ever lived. You know what I'm trying to say, right? I find this fan base, and I had to say this, it's like either one way or the other with typical players. It's like either they're like the worst player on the pitch or they're like the best player that's ever lived. There's no in between. So it's not like you can sit back and just allow it to happen. So for me, it's just, and I bring this back because I watch a lot of Alex Box Office channel, by the way. So I'm a massive fan of his. So big up to Alex if you're watching this. He brought a very good point up in his last video about that. Okay, when things are going well right now, yeah. By the way, just so you know, what's the point, FC? I haven't drunk for like 8 months, but anyway. but basically, huh? But basically, for me, he brought up a very good point, saying that obviously when things are going well right now, it looks like someone's doing like a very good job. But when, unfortunately, at some point things might go bad, right? Yeah, exactly. Thank you. At least someone understands this. We got Carl. At least you get this. Look, when everything's going great, everyone's like overexcited, and everything goes bad. It's But as in for me, we need to see what happens when the chips are down and when we're going for like a bad spell. Is he going to be the guy who's going to pull everyone together? Is going to be the guy that if players are playing badly, he's going to pull them on the sidelines and say, look, you've got to step up. That's, for me, the big test. Right now, when everything's going well, everyone's loving it. We're winning games. Obviously, we won 3, we drew 1. It's all good. Like someone in the chat said, I was saying he's wrong. They're picking up off his vibes. But when things are bad, what's going to happen?
Well, an error-prone a captain it's not going to stop an error-prone player from making mistakes if that's if they're not consistent throughout a season and they can't maintain a consistent form throughout a season.
Which is exactly why Dyer wasn't selected as captain.
Yeah.
That's why he's had a pram
no, good. You can talk about Dyer later. So with Son, what he's done, at least he's tried to introduce things, and he's popular. He's got gravitas. And if it means that at the training field or in the dining room, instead of players sitting in cliques and little 3 or 4 player groups, you become a more cohesive unit. Your bonding, your team bonding's better. Your team spirit grows, and the club are better for it. And I believe the results will come. But it's not just Son. When you looked at Maddison, who's leading by example of his performances and goals, and when Romero was handed the captain's armband when he went off, when no one was looking, he didn't do it for the crowd. He kissed the captain's armband. Romero kissed the captain's armband. And that says a lot. All these people sniping at him, he wanted to leave and all these. He's never wanted to leave. I think the good thing about the club is playing this style of football. If you create a happy atmosphere that players look forward to coming to training, you're playing front foot football they enjoy. They're not playing with fear. The manager will take the rap for you and all that, and he'll protect you, And we go on and we play good football at the stadium. When Rich, say if the Saudis come for our players or Real Madrid or whatever, then players ain't going to want to go, and you'll be saying, well, you're going to go to that team, mate. Yeah, but the problem is they don't play our style of football. Your game will suffer if you go and play for them. And you'll find that players will want to stay at the club. Some won't just be money mercenaries. Some will grow to love the club like Son does, because he does. So, and that's what you want. That's what you want to breed in that training ground. You want players to love that club and to always want to play for that club. That's provided they're good enough, of course.
Dyer, the Saudis can take Dyer if they want. He's available right now. Come.
Oh, he's had it. He's gone. Yeah.
So, obviously, we've when we come back from the international break, we've got Sheffield United at home. A winnable game.
Home or is it away?
Home.
Oh, is it home? Oh, okay.
It's at home. We've got Sheffield United at home, and then we have that North London derby to look forward to. Yes, the North London derby. I said it. This soon into the season. For me, guys, look, that's going to be the baptism of fire. That's going to be the true litmus test. That's going to be the true measure of where we're at currently as a team. Followed by that, straight away, we've got Liverpool after that, which is at home. Okay. Again, it's going to be another baptism of fire because Liverpool, they've started really well. They're doing great in the league. They've got fantastic players in their team. 2 games where, it's going to really, really test us, test our resolve, test us as a team, how far we've come. For me, I think it's a great opportunity to try and get something out of these 2 games. I think we will get something out of one of those games at least because form dictates that. But if we can get anything out of these 2 games, the 2 games after that are ones that are favourable, quite winnable. Okay. I think we've got Fulham after that, and I can't remember what the other game is, but a lot of winnable games after that. Now, you start grabbing results against any of the top 6 sides, and then grabbing wins against the lower league sides. That's when you really start to rack up the points. Do you think, and I'll start with Has, do you think this is a great opportunity for us to try and grab something from these next 2 games after the Sheffield United game, from your Arsenals and Liverpools, to hold us in good stead? Do you think it's a real good opportunity at the moment, or do you think, we're not ready?
I'll probably contradict you in 1 minute now. I think the Arsenal game is the one game where form completely goes out the window. And I think that game, on reflection of what I've seen of both teams this season, and unfortunately I have watched a lot of Arsenal because a lot of my friends support Arsenal, so naturally I end up watching them more. I think that game's going to have a lot of goals. It can either be like 3-2 to Arsenal or 3-3 or 4-4, another 4-4 like back in the day. It's going to have a lot of goals. Which way it will swing with Arsenal being at home, I think, they probably have the advantage whether we like it or not. And I am quite scared that'll probably be our first loss because it's very Tottenham. That'll be our first loss. But I do think at home to Liverpool we'll get something, at least a point. If not 3 against Liverpool, because I do think we have enough to get out their defence, and being at home again, we've got an advantage. So if we can get even 3 points out of those, or 4 points, I'll take 4 points right now. A draw at the Arsenal, I'll literally bite my hand off for a draw right now, and 3 points against Liverpool, that'd be ideal. But after that, because we're playing 1 game a week, we should be all right.
So we've got basically, I've put the fixture list up. We've got Sheffield after Sheffield United. We've got Arsenal away, which I don't think we've picked up a win there in the last 10 years.
Not since 2011, I think.
Or over 10 years, then we've not picked up a win there, so we drew one. Then we've got Liverpool at home. Now, if we get through those 2 games with a good result out of one of those 2 games or both of them, we've got Luton Town away and we've got Fulham at home.
I have to admit, I'm quite scared of Luton away. I'm not going to lie, because if you look at the way their stadium is, like
very compact.
Yeah. I wouldn't like to play there personally. I actually think it looks quite a difficult game, especially 12:30 kickoff. We're not that great on those kickoffs.
Is it a midday kickoff?
Yeah, this is 12:30 on that.
We did all right. 12:30 hoodoo against Brentford, didn't we? Bournemouth.
Yeah, Bournemouth. Yeah, we did all right. I think we'll be all right. I mean, all this talk of the midday kickoffs being a hoodoo and stuff, I don't think Andrew allowed that to sort of be a problem for us. But look, I mean, Adrian, I'll bring you in, right? Do you think that we can get a result against Arsenal away and Liverpool at home before those two games?
Definitely. I think we're going to win both those games anyway. You've got to take, when we play in Sheffield United, Arsenal away to Everton, they lost there last year 1-0, if I recall correctly, right? And then midweek, they've got to play PSV Eindhoven. We haven't got a game, so we'll be fresh. We've got to go there, and you'll play the same way we're playing, take it to them, we'll win. We'll win. And the Arsenal fans, they're always going to be nervous. Oh, it's been so long since Spurs have won it. They'll know it's going to happen sooner or later, so they'll be nervous. And we beat Arsenal, and then Liverpool thinking, oh damn, we've got to go to Tottenham, and they'll be worried. We got to start thinking about how much other teams are more worried about us than them. Ange doesn't worry about other teams; he just goes all out, and I love it.
I have to admit, I just feel sick whenever I watch the game at the Emirates, because I feel like I have no control over it. Like when you're at least at the North London derby yourself, it's very different. Like obviously, it was always very worrying. Like the night before, I barely sleep. I've got to be honest with you, I barely sleep. But it's just that away game is horrible. It's like the game I say at least look forward to, but it's not completely true. I always have bad feelings when we play them at the Emirates.
Yeah, but
I mean, they're the same when they come to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium as well. It's the same for both sides, and that's a natural feeling. It's a North London derby. Anything can happen in a North London derby, and you make a good point, Has. That sort of form sort of goes out the window. It becomes a war of attrition. But what for me sticks out is that last season, the way they played against us. It wasn't just about, it was the form actually told the story. Arsenal were the informed team and they played like it as well. We didn't play like we wanted to win the game, so we were in a bad form and we showed that. They were in a good form and they showed that. So it wasn't a case of what you just said. But this season is a bit different. We've been playing well. And I've seen a few gooners, casting an eye over us and having a look at the way we've been playing, I'm sure that they will be worried about the problems that we can cause them. Both teams are going to want to play. Both teams are going to want to be on the ball, to play on the front foot. It's going to be an interesting game. It's going to show, how far the players have come and the mental attitude as well. Those players will have to know that it's the North London derby. Especially the players that have just come in, your Van der Vens, your Vicarios, even your SARs and your Bissoumas, who've not really played a part last season.
I think Maddison will get it, if I'm being honest.
I think Maddison gets it because he's homegrown. He knows about the derby. He knows the rivalry between the two. So, look, I think if we even grabbed 2 draws against those teams, Arsenal and Liverpool, and then went on to beat Luton and Fulham, and let's bear in mind Fulham's due a beating from us for what happened in the Carling Cup, or the Carabao Cup, should I say. I think that would hold us in good stead. That would make it 18 points out of the first, 8 games.
We've just got to be positive. When we've been at Highbury before, we've had sending-offs, right? Silly own goals, penalties given against us, right? I mean, we are virtually, don't get me wrong, going back years, Arsenal were by far a better team than us and deserved to beat us there. But, we haven't helped ourselves when we've been at Highbury with some of the performance we've put in. It hasn't helped that, we've adopted low blocks under Conte and, you've got to go. That's not the right attitude to go into a derby match. You have to go into it like it has to be blood and thunder, and we haven't done that. When's the last time we won? I think Kabul got the goal, didn't we? 2-0 down and 1-3-2. Yeah, something like that. It's been too long, and now don't get me wrong, they'll be frightened of us. They know we've got dangerous players. We know Martinelli's a dangerous player and all that, but what we've got at the back now is when we push up, we've got so much pace at the back to get us out of trouble. So, I think it'll be a massive test for Porro.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I mean, look, the Spurs podcast says we'll need to cope with the early pressure and intensity, and I don't think we will at Arsenal. Do you think that's the case? Do you think there'll be too much for us with the pressure that Arsenal's going to put on us at Emirates?
I think people also underrating Declan Rice, because Rice is class, man. The guy is too. I know people say, "Oh, well, they paid 100 million for him," but it's partly because of he's English. He's West Ham's best player, so they had to pay big bucks for him. But the guy is, to me, so good, and I think already, obviously, I know he scored the winner, but take that away for a second. The guy's already transformed their midfield for me.
Yeah, but Rice can't do what Maddison does or what Bissouma does.
Yeah, but Maddison's a sitter.
I know. So they will be worried about us. We'll have the one sort of player that's trying to hold it there. It'll be Sarr, unless it's someone else, unless a Højbjerg plays or a Skip plays. We'll have to wait and see how we do against Sheffield United before a team selection comes along. You don't know what players, if any of the young players are tired or in the red zone and all this, that and the other, and they might start on the bench and not start. We'll have to say. I mean, I know it's an old cliche, but I do like to sort of take it one game at a time, because whenever people look ahead and they go, "Oh yeah, we should win that game," it never happens. It just never happens. It happened under Poch when we were finishing second, third, and fourth, but it hasn't happened since Poch. So I just want us we should beat Sheffield United, and we see if see how they. I mean, I don't see them coming at us, to be honest with you. So maybe Richarlison might get a start, or Son might start, and if things don't work out, then maybe Richarlison will come on.
I mean, you have to start with your strongest team, right? If Son's in a rich vein of form and he's scoring goals, you have to start with Son through the middle. We've still got the likes of Brennan Johnson to come in, who I think it was mooted that he's going to be preferred on the left. Again,
really? Oh.
Yeah, on the left. This was from one of the editors from Mirror Sport, who was on Talk Sport a few days ago, who is a Tottenham supporter as well, and follows Tottenham. And he was mentioning the fact that he'll be mostly utilised from the left by Ange. So whether that happens or not will be, remains to be seen. Predominantly for me, at Nottingham Forest, he played off the right if I'm not mistaken.
Especially with Kulusevski's struggles, I would have played.
Yeah,
I mean,
I don't know, but
I mean,
look, this is the question I wanted to ask, right? With Son moving in the middle, and I would keep him there at the moment, is there a case to try out Richarlison on the left where he used to play mostly for Everton?
Not against Arsenal, I wouldn't.
Not necessarily against Arsenal, but just in general, as sort of like a left forward or left winger.
You could do that, and then like when you've got free kicks and corners, he goes in the middle, to try and get on the end of one of them and all that. As the team works so well, you can't really drop Solomon for Sheffield United. He did so well, and the guy might have a superb ceiling. We don't know yet. I mean, he's shown us a good game. If he can do that in games, he's going to be hard to kick out the side, isn't he? And like you said, both of you said, going with Son and even Brennan Johnson, if you're going against Sheffield United, they're playing a low block. Well, there's two ways you beat a low block. One, shots outside the box. And two, you've got wingers who can take players on. And Johnson and Solomon can take players on. And so can Sonny. So against Sheffield United, I mean, look, it's early into the season. I don't know what Angie's do. All we try and do is second guess and play Football Manager, don't we? And we like to pick the players we think are good. But, like I said, we'll just have to wait and see. I mean, whether, because Emerson's going to get games, isn't he? And Richarlison is. They're not going to we've seen his team selection. We've seen the subs on the bench. We've seen the subs he's brought on. Glad to see Ashley Phillips on the bench personally because I rate the guy. And so it's sort of wait and see for Sheffield United. And then like you say, coming back for the international break, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
No one's injured. And if it's Van der Ven, hope he's just maybe he might have got COVID or might have got a fever or something like that. You don't know, do you? But if it was serious, I think, the press would be all over it. So, and they're not. So we would have heard. So it's probably minor.
I mean, all the talk is, about Arsenal, that North London derby, but we still got that game against Liverpool at home as well. I mean, that's not going to be an easy game. For me, Liverpool are always, for me, one of the teams that we struggle against sometimes. Do you see them struggling against us because they've had some defensive issues as well?
I think being at home, I think we can beat anyone at home for the most part. Especially now we beat United at home, I'm more confident. But away from home, it's a different story. I just think when we talk about Arsenal, we're talking about a team who I know they collapsed, but they were title challengers last season for the majority of the season. And they've also added to their 11 or squad, however you want to phrase it. And like I mentioned again, Rice for me is a top-class signing, no matter how much they paid for him. And they're going to cause teams problems. And especially at home, the manner in which they beat United was just, to me, just epitomized Arsenal. And unfortunately, in those sorts of games, they just get the rub of the green a lot at home. I've seen it so many times. When you think Arsenal, they're going to lose the game, they're 1-0 down with 10 minutes to go, they will grab 2 goals. And especially this sort of fixture against Arsenal-Tottenham, like you said, we don't have a good record there, which is why I'm coming here and saying I'll bite my hand off for a draw right now, because we've had so many issues up there, like refereeing or however you want to say it. One game I'm really bitter about. I know this happened years and years and years ago, but the last game at Highbury, I feel like we should have won that game, but we let Henry bloody score in the last 5-10 minutes. For me, we played way better than them that day. But it's that's another example for me is where we dominated the game. We should have won and we didn't. So anything at Arsenal is a bonus for me. If we get a point, I'll be ecstatic. If we win there, I'll probably be jumping down the high road for 2 hours.
Yeah,
I wouldn't expect us to win. I'm not expecting us to go there and win personally. Not as a bad thing, but I think we can get a draw. We could scrape a draw there. Not scrape a draw. I think it was a 3-3 or 2-2 or something like that.
Yeah, unless there's a controversial incident that goes against you, like VR decision, penalties. And stuff. Yeah.
So there was a signing made this week that I wanted to talk about. For anyone that's not aware, Maxim Pascozzi has signed a contract with Tottenham Hotspur, and he's someone that was, very well spoken of at the club, highly rated as well. This is just off his page on X. He says, I want to say thank you to this amazing club that's been a home for me for the last 3 years. It's been a journey I could only dream of. I'll be forever grateful to the people that I met and that became my second family. I will never forget that. Fans, friends for life. Me and my family will never forget this club and people around what it's done for me. You guys will always be in my heart. What do you make of that?
He's an Estonia international, isn't he? So
Yes.
He either plays at centre back or right back, I think. And I thought he was going to make it, actually. But you see, when I have been to academy games, which might have been 3 or 4 a season, you can't judge players even if they've had 4 good games, because you need to judge them over the whole season. You need to see them.
Sorry, Adrian, I just wanted to correct something. It didn't. I said it like he signed for us. I do apologise.
No, he left.
He's actually signed for Grasshoppers, so I just want to correct that.
Zurich, isn't he? He's got the Grasshoppers.
He's gone to Zurich.
So, I thought, but I also thought, this is when you get. I also thought that Malachi Walcott would make it, and he got let go as well. So you look at players. I mean, all right, obviously, you look at Dane Scarlett and others that have stood out in some academy games, and I think he will definitely make it, But as I think Alfie Devine will as well, and I think Torrington will as well as. But we've only just brought in Ashley Phillips, so it's easy to say he'll make it. After watching him, Ashmatic did a good analysis of him, and he just looks a baller of a centre half, fast, strong, nearly 6'4", and another kid who's only 18, 19, built like a tank. Torrington's 6'2", though. I think they're both right-footed. So. And they both played for the England under 15, 16, 17s, 18s, 19s, or whatever. And Ange liked what you see in Ashley Phillips, and he had started him training. We should have smelt that. I mean, us, always looking for things. When he made the subs bench, we should have guessed that a deal for Sanchez was in the making. We should have guessed that. Like I didn't. I missed it. I thought. I was just pleased to see him on the bench, and I've gone off topic a little bit. I think.
Oh, Adrian, is he fast? I've never seen this guy play. I'm asking you.
Yeah,
I've never seen that.
You'll see YouTube videos of him. He played about 8 games, I think, for Blackburn. We're talking about Ashley Phillips, yeah.
Yeah, Ashley Phillips.
He's just. I think he's between 6'3" and 64. He's fast and he can progress with the ball and get forward. But Torrington get forward as well. He's a unit, though. I mean, Ashley Phillips is like he's bigger than Van der Ven. I mean, and he looks broader than Van der Ven as well. I mean, so unless my eyes are deceiving me, and he can they can play the ball. And the difference is when people say we're missing Sanchez, hang on, Sanchez is good and he's got pace, but Sanchez used to worry me if he was going to pass the ball more than 5 yards, because he's not a baller centre back. Sanchez. I hope he does well in the league he's gone to. Nothing against him. He's been there nearly 6 years, but I mean, not good enough. Dyer, when you looked at Dyer against Barcelona, and the other centre back, who's apparently had a meeting with Levy that he might want to talk about later, he's just too slow on the ball and he dithers, and he hesitates before looking for a forward pass. You want players that are more proactive than he is. And don't back off and come in and make the challenge when they're centre back. If you give away a free kick, give away the free kick, but let the other team know. So then when their strikers come to you, they know they're going to get it, right? They're not getting into the penalty area and they will take the tackle outside. But Dyer's not proactive, he's reactive. And backing off with your hands behind your back, all right, you think you won't get a penalty, but putting your hands behind your back is not a natural position either, is it? It's not. It's not a natural position.
Dyer's a complete different story. The guy is just a kamikaze defending, I'd say.
So this season before last, I mean, Davis had good seasons, but like I said, it's consistency. If we're going to win stuff, you want all your team to give you a minimum. You want your players to be giving you 7s out of 10s, and you're throwing in the 8s and the odd 9s with them. But you start dropping down to 6s and all that, no good. Not good enough.
I just wanted to say a shout out to Spurs podcast as well, by the way. Thanks for being part of the chat. Spurs podcast says, how many young so-called and up-and-coming players do we hear of in our youth setup, and we never see them in a Spurs shirt? Divine will be the same. Do we think Divine will be the same? Because I think Divine's got a very high ceiling at the moment. He's been playing well.
Is it Brian Daigle that really rates him?
Yes, Brian Daigle absolutely loves Alfred Divine. I think Alfred Divine's going to be.
When he was 15, he scored the goal in the FA Cup against Marine, didn't he? Away, right?
Yeah.
And the weekend, he came on. He got an assist and scored the winner from a penalty spot. So he's got the cojones to take penalties, and he's a versatile player. You could play in midfield and wide. I mean, another kid there that, like, they talk about Højbjerg might go get someone in Conor Gallagher, but no, John's good in that defense, in that midfield, attacking midfield position as well. I mean, I don't know if he'll make it. I don't know, but when we start thinking about, thing that gets me, we want to go out and spend all this money on players, and we're not trying our youngsters. We're not trying any of them. Now,
but Adrian, I kind of agree with you, because surely this would be the season to try them, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I
Absolutely.
mean, if what I'd love to see is Ashley Phillips come in and do well, and then if he does well, you've got 3 centre backs you can rotate, and then you could bring Dorrington in as well, right? And that would be great. And then if they do get game time before January, come January, your transfer window changes and what you want to bring into the squad, because we will look to bring in 2 players in January. Of that, I'm absolutely certain. Now, I still think Tosin Adarabioyo is an option, or Lloyd Kelly, who was 16th choice or something he was. But he's see, the thing with Lloyd Kelly, I see the interest because he's fast and he's good on the ball. Like, the little bit I've looked at him, which isn't much, right? Because he had a big injury, I think, at Bournemouth.
He had this injury, yeah.
And everyone was looking at him before the injury. And I think he's captain, and he's captain of them as well. So he must have something about him. But, like, we're flying. We come around to January. There'll be no shortage of players want to come to Spurs. Yeah.
So, okay, look, we've had plenty of players go out last day of the season, and after this season, last day of the transfer window. And lo and behold, after the transfer window ended, we had a few players leave the club. So I just wanted to get everyone's thoughts on a certain player that.
Are we talking about, which one are we talking about now?
You'll see very shortly. You'll see very, very shortly.
Are we talking about Oh, no.
No, right. Okay. So the one we're talking about is
this guy.
Ndombele. So Ndombele finally he's made a move to Galatasaray, albeit on loan. How do we see that? Because does everyone, wish that he went out on a permanent basis? I mean, look, we just can't get rid of this guy at the moment. He's been at Spurs for the last 4 years now. All of his moves have been loans. Do we think we can sell him off next season?
No.
Anyone?
No.
I wouldn't rule it totally out, because if he goes there, and it's probably his last chance saloon at clubs looking at him, if he can't do it in the Turkish league. I mean, he's gone there. They've got Champions League. They've had turnover of players because they're getting money for the Champions League. They brought quite a few in, haven't they, Galatasaray?
Yes, I agree, Paul.
If he was poor there and it didn't work, then knowing what he's been so far with his attitude to us, and he's been a bit of a money pig, I could see him ended up in the Saudi league. I could see him ended up there earning a fortune, and that league closes in 5 minutes, by the way, their transfer window.
5 minutes to go, people. 5 minutes.
Go get Dyer.
5 minutes left for Galatasaray to actually
get Dyer and Hugo,
to take Dyer and Hugo on board. Come on, guys.
Next Friday, another 8 days is when the Turkish window shuts. So there's still another week we can get rid of them. But on those players that we haven't got rid of, we've done what's commercially sensible. We try to get some money back and save on wages. They're not going to get the 25-man squad has to be named by the 13th of September. I know you have to name a different squad after January transfer window as well because you're bringing in new players. So by then, I mean, you know, if you look at it, it's putting us in a good position going towards January because if Hugo don't go now to Saudi or whatever, I mean, he's one of the foreign quota. We're going to be in Europe next year, guys. No sweat, right? So Dyer's part of the foreign quota because of his time in Portugal. Sanchez is gone as well. That's 3. And in Ndombele's 4. They're not. Do you remember when we had to announce foreign squads before? And I think in one, 1-5 had to be let out because we had too many foreign.
Yeah, I remember that.
Right. So all that happened to these guys, they won't make that squad. Now I don't know what happens with the league squad, whether they'd still put them in that or not. I suppose it all depends what our numbers are and where Ange looks at it, because I don't fully know. Maybe you guys know what happens if we don't register them. If we don't register them with the Premier League, what is the situation with the player and their contracts and that?
I don't know. That's a good question because I don't know.
If anyone in the chat knows, please let us know because I haven't researched that. Right? I've researched the Saudi League, but I haven't researched that.
I think I'm trying to think back because I'm sure we did that before with someone like Adebayor, didn't we, or something like that? And he ended up playing the reserves. Was that Adebayor or someone like that? I'm thinking of.
I think it might have been Adebayor. I'd like to think it wasn't, but
it's something like that. But I can't remember we did it once. Was it Danny Rose? We didn't register him or something.
It could have been Danny Rose. We'll have to look that one up. But you know, one thing's for sure. Obviously, Lloris hasn't. You know, he hasn't been able to find a new club. He had an offer from Nice come through. He didn't agree with their objectives and what they wanted to achieve, so he declined that as well. I believe that was on the last day of the season. So, you know, lo and behold, we have Hugo Lloris still at the club. Do you think the club will be tempted to terminate his contract and move him on that way?
I think they might be. And I think with him, it'd be more amicable to try and do it with, because from what Ange has been saying, I don't know if you watched his press conference where he talked about Hugo helping Vicario settle in and helping with other keepers, despite the fact obviously he wants to leave, right? He's been very professional. He's not kicked up a fuss. He's not trained. You know, he's not done anything toxic. Let's use that word. So I think it's more likely to happen because I don't think he'll want to sit down for like a year and do nothing, compared to someone like Eric Dyer, who, from what I'm hearing in reports, wants to sit out the year just to go abroad on a free.
Well, he's entitled to do that.
Yeah, I know. Also, I'm just saying, I think Hugo's more likely to want to play football.
When the window shuts, there's still the issue of loans, isn't there? Players can still be loaned, as far as I understand. So you've got Lloris. Doesn't seem like he fancies Saudi. That's virtually over now anyway. I don't see him going to Turkey. But I expressed earlier in other pods, I said, I think these players that you think we can't shift, I think if they're not getting no football, come January, they're going to want to go.
Yeah.
So we might still get some money for Dyer. Because remember with Ericsson, Levy wanted 60-odd million from him at the beginning of the summer transfer, and we got 16 million from, I think, the Man, which I thought was good of Levy. He's very good at squeezing juice out of the lemon, you know. So, we got money for them when he went to Conte's Milan. And so you could still get money for them. And look, if they're not in the 25, I don't know what the issue is. I get the angst with fans saying, "Oh, tear up their contracts and this, that, and the other." Yeah, but if you told up, Ndombele's contracts and a few of the other players we've got, you're talking like 40 mil, 50 mil or something. We can use that money for other things, or we can get some of that money back in wages, even if it's only a third of it. You know, if you got like 16 mil of it back, you know, I think Galatasaray are only paying like 3.1 million of Tanguy's wages. Well, we're told he's on 200 grand a week. I don't know what he's on. I don't think he is on. He'd probably be on 170 or something. I mean, I don't know. He might be on 200. Who knows?
I think Tanguy is on 200.
Well, we're getting. So he's on 10 million a year. So we're getting 3 million for the season for him. All right, we're saving 3 mil. Right, it's costing us 7. and then they've got an option to buy him at the end of the season for about 15 million or something, right?
Well, let's hope that's the case, and that he does go on a permanent.
Well, yeah.
I think, Adrian, the issue is that when fans say tear up this guy's contract, I think it comes more to players like Dyer and Ndombele, because they just don't want to play straight up, and they're actually considered by fans, especially like me, like toxic for the actual squad. Like someone like Lloris, I don't scream out, for example, tear out his contract or end his contract, because even if he stayed for a year, I can't imagine him being the kind of guy. And Ange, like I said, has clarified this even to the press, to go around this club and start being toxic and saying, "Oh, why am I not playing?" He knows he wants to leave, but at the same time, he's not going around causing problems. With someone like Dyer and Ndombele, you can tell they're players going around causing problems in whichever way or form. And you kind of need to get them out of the building, literally. With someone like Sanchez, I can't imagine he was someone who was causing problems. As a character and a personality, I don't think he seems like the type. But others, I think fans are justified to say that, because they're just not good to be around the team in any sort of shape or form.
Yeah. At Leeds, I think you'd get something for Rodon at the end of the season. He'll be fine in the Championship.
I think we get something for Rodon.
Spence, the word from the club is they want to keep him. They hope he's going to develop. Obviously, if he doesn't and he has a poor season at Leeds, their attitude might climb, but they haven't given up on Spence.
Guys, Spence, I don't think he was in the plans, but if it's the case that they want to develop him, then fair enough. Maybe Ange sees something in him that previous managers haven't, like Conte. But right, so I'm going to move on to Ange. Before I do that, I just want to send a big shout out to everyone who's watching the show at the moment, everyone in the chat. Big yourselves up. Please do smash the like button. Please do give us a subscribe if you're new to the channel as well. Smash the like button. And look, we'll move on to Ange. 4 games in the Premier League and 1 League Cup game. What have we made of Big Ange's tenure so far at Tottenham Hotspur? I mean, he's come in, he's done everything that he said he was going to do. He changed the football that we were going to play. He's had a very big impact on the philosophy. And, his press conferences have been a breath of fresh air. What do you make of Ange's start so far? I think he's been great, but what do you think?
Well, I think tactically, and I think it's kind of helped by the fact we actually have another decent centre-half. He's kind of fixed some of the issues we had last season, like the change to a 4-3-3 for me was like a golden move, because every game last season we're getting outrun in midfield. So going with 3 in midfield, also by product of that, you're getting the best out of Basuma and Maddison, who's obviously come in. And the football we played, it kind of got what we asked for on the tin, because Ange obviously plays attacking football in his previous clubs, and he's doing that at Tottenham. So in that sense, obviously beating United as well was kind of a surprise to me, because on paper you wouldn't expect us to beat them. So big ups to Ange for that. His team selection in the cup game, I disapprove of completely. I would have played certain players and not other players, especially with the news that Sanchez left like a few days later. So I don't know what he was playing out there, but to me, that was just a repeat of every other Spurs manager before him who just rested players in cups and didn't take it seriously. So I have to admit, I wasn't happy with him at all that night. But in terms of style and like vibes or camaraderie, if you want to say it, I think he's done really well. He's kind of brought fans more on side with the club again, I'd say. It's only been 4 games, but people are more excited to come and watch the team. There's more of a belief in just Tottenham in general, I'd say, from fans. People actually want to watch the games and they feel more connected to the team compared to, especially to last season. And Ange actually wants to be here. So I think that's very helpful. Adrian, what are your thoughts on Ange's first 4 games?
Yeah, I mean, look, he got it badly wrong against Fulham, but we'll move on from that straight away, because we all love the guy. He the way he's got us going and changing our style of football. It's a breath of fresh air. People love going to the games now, and even if we'd lost the game or whatever, and we're playing that style of football, after the last 3 managers and the dross we've had to put up with, Spurs fans are filled with renewed vigour, and they're like optimistic about this season, and I believe we will qualify for Europe quite easily. And you've got to look at Ange and his style, though. I mean, as much as Højbjerg has done a good job for us, last season he played something like 35 games, he had 5 assists, 4 goals. He is worth 35 million in my opinion, even up to 40 for a team that buys him. But Højbjerg doesn't suit the system. When you look at Maddison and Basuma and even Sarr, the 3 of them are technically better. Even Bentancur is. So I can see Højbjerg going in the summer or whatever,
or in January even maybe.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, because if Højbjerg don't get much game time, if we do him really well, some players don't mind sitting on the bench. They wouldn't bother me if he stayed. But you're not going to get rid of Skip, because Skip's still got a higher ceiling. He's had a bit of criticism, but then you're looking at your homegrowns. Your main homegrowns would be Skip, Maddison, and who am I forgetting? Brennan Johnson.
Is he homegrown? Does he classify as homegrown?
Sorry?
Is he classified as homegrown?
Brennan Johnson is, yeah.
Just Wales. So I didn't know Wales counted or not. Sorry. So is it Wales? Anyone in the UK, basically, right?
He does for the Premier League. Now, if we get into Europe next year,
this is why I get confused. This is why I'm asking you.
Yeah. Well, it worked out that with Dyer and Davies, but then I thought once we got into Europe the other year, I think because of the years he was at the club, Davies or something. I think I need to source this. I think Davies then was classed as homegrown for European competitions. I'm not sure what the what the statute of limitations is on players, basically, regards their foreign quota or whatever. So, yeah, I know Brennan Johnson plays for Wales, but I think it's where all your coaching's done and all that. And I think he's been completely groomed. And you are at a young age. When you're too young, it doesn't count at all, does it? You know what I mean? But when you reach a certain age, if he's had all this coaching at Forest or whatever, I don't know if he was somewhere before that. I think Brennan Johnson counts as homegrown because of his time with Forest. The fact that he plays for Wales, I assume. I don't even know if both his parents are Welsh or whatever. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Sorry, guys, I missed the last few minutes. I had to nip off for a natural. But look, for me, Andrew's come in. I think he's made all the right noises. I think what he's done in a short space of time he's been at the club, I think is phenomenal. To be able to instigate that sort of football from this group of players, some of whom were playing under Conte, some of whom were playing even under Poch, and even under Mourinho. I think he's done a great job, and he's also added players around the core team as well, which the likes of Van der Ven, Vicario, and everyone else who's come in, I think is complementing the squad really well. And I think going forward, I think hopefully it's going to serve us well. But I do think, like what Has alluded to as well, that we are a bit thin on the ground in terms of defensive reinforcement. Yeah. And we're like one sort of injury away from either Van der Ven or Romero. And it turns into a catastrophe. Who do we bring in?
Well, like you say, you've got Ashley Phillips and Davies.
Yeah.
But also at left back, unless he gets a tune out of Sessegnon when he comes back, which, he's got all the talent in the world, but it's not shown it for us, only at Fulham. But we lack quality cover at left back. You've got Davies there. He's going to be the utility man that's kept, And we don't know what the final situation is going to be after a few games, how it's going to work out on the right back side, because Porro and Emerson, they're just different. They're just different players, aren't they? So we're not sure of that. So ideally, you'd want a left centre back as well. You'd want another left footer, because we've got 2 youngsters that are right footed, Torrent and Ashley Phillips. But
do we agree with what the Point FC is saying? He's saying, I'm not deluded. The manager is not here to win things. He's here to deliver pretty football. Hopefully, we'll get new owners who actually want to win things someday soon. What's the Point FC? Are you alluding to the fact that, changes were made in the League Cup to prioritise, the league and finishing in the top 5 for Champions League? Or it'd be great if you sort of elaborated on what you're saying.
But I think he's got a point because of was Ange's first presser, he said about qualifying back into Europe. He didn't allude to winning trophies.
So what we're saying is Angie's going to prioritise the league in order
which
to
is
get
kind of
back into
shown,
Europe.
which is kind of shown by his selection in the cup, isn't it?
Do you think that we're strong enough to win a trophy through one of the well, not the League Cup anymore, but the FA Cup at least?
Well,
Do you reckon we can get far?
We could get far, but I think we'd have to rest players in the league on the way in if we're going to go deep in it.
Well, we don't know what work we're going to do in the January transfer window. And don't forget, like people keep talking about our hard season. We've got about a game a week. And then, all right, the reason we'll need probably Højbjerg and Skip to keep them in January if we don't get another midfielder, and we're going to keep Skip because he's homegrown. Because on the 13th of January, you've got the African Nations Cup. We're going to lose Basuma and Sarr, right? So, and that goes on to the 11th of February. So, like, you're going to lose them. So I don't mind being top. Hello, Ellie. I don't mind being top heavy with midfielders and people saying, "Oh, we've got too many in midfield." Listen, most games are won and lost in midfield. And besides, when you look at a squad, you've got 25 players, right? If you've got 22, that's 2 in each position. 23 gives you the third goalkeeper. You've now got 2 extra slots. Now, if you're forward thinking, which Spurs have never been in the past, right? You look at all these competitions coming up, if it's World Cups, European Championship, African Nation, Asian Cups and all that, and you think, right, what's the makeup of the nationalities of our squad? Where we're going to hit burst. So when we go in the transfer in the summer, we'll buy this player and that player because they'll cover us when we lose 2 players away to a foreign competition. I've always been exasperated about the way we've gone about our recruitment. I'm sure you have as well, because it's been in the past, it's been absolute shit. Right? There's no two ways about it. It's been awful. The whole structure, even at the academy levels, is awful. They're getting it right now. I mean, if you look at all the new players that have come in, Udogie and all the youngsters, the recruitment. This is all down to Paratici. He's got about 6 or 7 of these in. You know,
we still have Brian Hill. He's injured, right?
We still got him. Yeah. You still got Sessegnon. Now, no one's going to think, oh, would Ange get a tune out of Brian Hill? Well, he's certainly an attacking player. You know, people have sort of said, oh, maybe he could be a Modric or whatever. I mean, we don't know. If not, we'll get money for him. If we don't, we'll get money for Sessegnon. There'll be plenty.
I think Hill is more worth a go than Sessegnon, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I mean, I really hope that, like, I mean, now with the operations, they reckon they've really fixed his hamstring, the muscles at the back of the leg. Right, it's not a tendon; it's like a muscle tears, like because he kept getting them, which makes me wonder what sort of warm-up procedures they go through beforehand and all that. I mean, this is why when Conte pulled the science team, I mean, I trained for 30 years in the gym and all that, and when you start, you get on a bike for 5 minutes and you pedal with no resistance. The reason you do that is so you get your blood, you warm your body core up, like you get the blood around the system, the nutrients in the joints, and all your tendons. Instead of you put a stick of toffee in the fridge and you pull it out and you snap it, when the tendons are nice, soft and warm, they're nice, supple and bendy, aren't they? And I often wonder with these hamstring injuries, why aren't these players on a leg curl machine earlier on with no weight, just their feet tucked under the back of a leg curl machine? Do you know what a leg curl machine is? You've got an idea, right? Well, then you stick your heels under the back of these 2 pads and you lift this thing up. And what you do, you warm all your hamstrings up. But I don't know what they're doing. Maybe they are doing stuff and I'm talking absolute crap, right? But no, we don't get no transparency or see what they're actually doing that way. You always see on these little video clips of them doing little poncy things and laughing and joking around.
Yeah.
On the field. You don't see it. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, so with him and with Bentancur, everybody's giving it doom about, he's like, look, those injuries are very easily to fix nowadays. It's not like back in the day if you got a cartilage problem on your knee, you know, you was out for 3 months because there was no keyhole surgery and things like that, you know. So I hope because there's a part of me we always want all the players to do well, but I watched Sessegnon when he played for Fulham and I thought, this guy's got something. But I'm hoping that under Conte, Conte destroyed his confidence because Sessegnon never wanted to take a player on. I never seemed to. He got that goal against Bayern Munich, didn't he? But he never seemed to want to take a player on. Whereas Solomon, he's there. Johnson will, Kulu will. When he's in the right mood. So I'm hoping if we could get a tune out of Sessegnon, we've got good.
I don't think we will get a tune out of Sessegnon. I think that was sold a long time ago.
Yeah,
£30 million for a player who's just so injury prone, has hardly had a run of games for us due to his injuries. I just think that boat is sailed now. Let's be honest, you're comparing Sessegnon and Udogie. Yeah. There's only one winner. There's only one clear winner.
Yeah, I know. But when we played away at Man City for that game, I remember Sessegnon had a great game. I mean, probably one of his only best games. And he had to mark Foden and at the time Sterling as well. And he did a good job. I think we still lost the game, but he had a good game, right? And I thought, yeah, this kid's he's got talent, but, we need the consistency. And like you said, he's got to be injury-free. If he breaks down again, he's gone, isn't he? But I think Ange will have a look at him. He's technically...
I just think that boat has sailed, Adrian.
Because you're probably right.
You look at someone like Udogie, who's just come in, and how consistently he's performing week in, week out. He's keeping up those same levels. From Cess, we haven't seen that. We've seen one good game, then 4 bad games. One good game, 4 bad games, and then he's out for 3 or 4 months. For me, that boat has sailed.
And I also open that, the last 3 managers, Conte now, I don't think they'd have done. I don't think they did anything for any of the players' confidence. They weren't like man managers like Anges. They're not man managers.
Shout out to what's the point? The only tune you'll get out of Sessegnon is a sound.
You're right at the moment. You're right. Everyone's right to say you won't get a tune out of him.
Guys. Sorry, Adrian. I've just put up a list of all the players that Fabio Paratici has brought in. The ones that for me have made the biggest difference to the team. These players were all brought in by Paratici. So you've got Romero at 40 million, Udogie 15, Sarr 15, Bissouma at 25, Kulusevski at 25, Porro for 40, and Bentancur at 20. Would you say
you're missing one?
Go on.
Vicario.
And Vicario as well, probably. Yep, absolutely. Vicario as well. You can add to that list. Would you say?
Look at them.
Would you say his tenure as football director has been a successful one?
Yeah, because he's had a lot to do with changes at the academy level as well. There's been quite a few eruptions. Some of the coaches have gone and things like that recently and all that. But he was having a big say on that. I mean, now it'll be down to Scott Munn when he comes at the end of the month, and then they're saying we're going to get a director of football shortly after him coming in the end. He starts the end of this month now, Scott Munn, apparently. So he's been guesting at loads of games though. So obviously they've got to get together with Chris Davies, the head coach, Ange, Mason and all that lot, and who else deals with? There'll be Miley Jadanek, as well. He had a lot to do with actually recruitment at Villa when he was at Villa, the ex-Socceroos captain.
Yeah, he came from Villa, didn't he?
Yeah. So Miley Jadanek. So there's been changes for the good, a lot of changes for the good, and we're still progressive and making changes and changing the squad and getting rid of, and the deadwood's being shifted. Credit to the club for being willing to change, as far as I'm concerned. But Paratici, the difference that Bentancur and Kulu had when they first come in the season, they were massive for us when they first came in, And Sarr's looking like he is a player under Conte, not given a sniff. Bissouma not given a sniff under Conte, got a bit injured and all that. He wanted Porro, but that was still down to Paratici. Paratici's done well. He's took a lot of criticism. He's done a lot of work behind the scenes. Apparently, word is coming out. Let's come out. So them 8 players. What one hasn't improved us? What one hasn't improved the squad?
It's hard to really say that none of them's sort of not improved us.
I think with Basuma though, I don't think that's his signing personally. But I just think the club bought him because he had a year left.
It was an opportunistic one, like the Maddison signing. You know, coming to the end.
The ones I give him credit for, just off this one, Romero, Udogie for sure, Sarr because that's definitely his one. Kulusevski and Bentancur, obviously the Juve link. Porro, I know is one that Conte really wanted. So whether that was, Paratici's amazing contacts, I don't know, or anything like that, I don't really know. But I'd say, Kulusevski, Bentancur, 100%. Sarr and Udogie and Romero, 100%. So those 5.
And you look at the amount they cost, right?
Yeah.
And then look at our 4 most expensive players, right? You got Davinson Sanchez, 42 million. You got Ndombele. You got Lo Celso. And who else? It's another one that makes us up to about 200 million.
It's not a bad group of players for 200 million, is it? I mean, let's be honest, or just under.
Not these. I'm talking about the failures like Lo Celso, Ndombele, Davinson Sanchez, and who else did we buy?
I think the Sanchez one must be really bad by scouting, if I'm being honest, because I used to work with an Ajax fan, and when I asked him when we signed him, "Oh, is this guy any good?" They're like, "We had him for 1 year. He was all right." And then we told him to for 42 million, and he was like really shocked by the transfer fee. So I don't know who scouted Sanchez, but I don't know.
They come to 180. If you added Vicario at 20, say 200 mil, and yet 3 of our worst players, I mean, they come to about 160 mil, Ndombele, Sanchez, and whatever. When we spent big, sorry. If I added Richarlison to Sanchez, Ndombele, and Lo Celso, that would be 200 mil. The same amount of these 8 players if you put Vicario in amongst them. There's no comparison, is there? If Richarlison don't get his game together, he's a busted flush, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. But, he's been brought in as our number 1, Adrian, and I think that's where he'll stay. Realistically, do you think we have anyone else that can step in if it was to go sideways?
I don't know how good Velez is. I've seen the videos of him. He's good in the air, but he's young, so you need to see him in the Premier League to see how he copes with it. But he's 6'2". He's not. It's all these players we've brought in. They're all men. They're all men. They're all units, like. So I don't know. I'm confident Kulusevski could play through the centre and hold the ball up.
Yeah, I agree with you with that, Adrian.
But I don't know how good he would be in that position. Obviously,
has been calling for Kulusevski to play down the middle, or as
I see him as a number 10 anyway. I see him as a number 10. Then, if you were playing a 4-2-3-1, you could have. You could play the 2 wingers. You could bring in Brennan Johnson on one wing and have Matey on the other and Son through the middle, and you could have Kulusevski in the middle of them and say Son as the number 9. You could do that. That would look potent, but we'll have to see. Let's see if Ange does make little tactical tweaks as he goes along, because I don't see 2 inverted fullbacks at the moment. I see the one on the right inverted and Udogie doing his own thing. So doing what he's
also
good at.
Another thing with our fullbacks, I just want to mention, I wouldn't be as worried, say, if only one of them went down and we say we had Davies on the one side and Porro on the other, or Emerson on one side and Udogie on the other. But if they both went down, I think we've got problems, because as we saw in the cup game, I don't think Davies and Emerson as a collective have the same potency and thrust and danger going forward as the other 2. I know Porro has his not defensive frailties, that's probably not the right word to say, but as in he's still bedding into that position. But overall, most people and most Spurs fans I've speak to say Porro's already better than Emerson at right back. And obviously Udogie's coming in and just taking that spot. So I think we need to keep them. If we're going to rest the fullbacks, I only want to see one of them rested, not both.
So I just wanted to move on to, I think we're coming up to an hour and a half almost, so we are going to end the show very soon. But I also wanted to touch on this guy right here, Brennan Johnson, signed last day of the transfer window. £40 million plus add-ons. A lot of people opposed his signing at the time, saying that it was underwhelming. We expected a defender or someone to come in and maybe another number 9. But, look, he's here now. He's a Tottenham Hotspur football player. From all the stuff that I've seen after he signed for us, looks like he can do bits perhaps for us. What's everyone's thoughts on him signing for Spurs, and how do we see his time at Tottenham panning out this season?
I think initially he'll probably start on the bench, because I think he'll probably give Kulusevski another game, if not maybe 2. I hope he doesn't give him 2, because I'd rather see Johnson playing the derby based on Kulusevski's performances. Because right now on the right, I think I'd like to see anyone else but Kulusevski right now. It's nothing against him. It's just I just want to see something different, because I just think he's struggling down there a lot. And I think if we put someone else there, maybe we'll get a better attack, I guess. I don't know if that's the right way to say it. But I think coupled with that, I think Johnson is more needed, because I said on my channel and on other previous streams I've been on for the past week or whatever, 2 weeks, when you spoke to a month ago about Johnson, I would have said no. But now I'm saying more yes, because if he played on the right for Forest, I think right now he'd probably start on the right for Tottenham because of what's happening. Another thing with Johnson that I think people need to take into consideration is that if we're going to see the best of him, it might take a couple of years. I don't think we're going to get 15, 20 goals out of him straight off the bat. It's going to take a while. And I think he'll take maybe 6 months to settle into a new team, maybe, or stuff like that. Or maybe he'll hit it right off the bat. But I think he's got potential. But I think people need to not expect too much too soon.
Yeah.
Adrian, with his price tag being £40 million, possibly rising up to 50, do you reckon there's any pressure from Ange or even the club to start?
Ange will take the pressure off me and say, look, don't worry about the price tag. Don't even think about it. That's what you do with players like that. I see Ashtatics, as I call him, Ashmatic, do his analytics on him. But I disagreed when Ash said that he's a clinical finisher. I don't think he is, not yet. I mean, but bear in mind, Kane took a while to get going, right? And had loads of loans, didn't he? So he's in the age group, and well, everyone's saying how fast he is. He's very quick, and he's a very good ball carrier. I don't see much else other than that. Last season, apparently, he got 8 goals or something, which for a wide player, a 1 in 4 strike rate, if he's playing out wide, is a good return. So he can get goals in the Premier League. But Ange wanted him. So and Paratici, this is another Paratici, because he was looking at him for about a season and a bit. So obviously they've seen a lot more of the player than we have in the video bits we've seen, right? Maybe they've seen things in those games that weren't put in these clips that I've watched. I've watched the video of him. Don't get me wrong, he gives us. We're going to have terrifying pace in our side,
Paulio125 says he'll get more than Richie. Do you reckon that's the case? Do you reckon he will get more than Richie?
Well, if he got 8 last year, he will, won't he?
Has, what about you? Do you reckon he might be able to get more than Richie?
I don't know, because it depends how much Charlton plays. So if Charlton doesn't play, then how's he going to score goals? But I actually think Johnson right now stands more of a chance of starting out of all our signings, attacking wise. He's the guy who's probably going to start the most.
He'll be blooded from the bench.
It's interesting.
When we've got a game one, it'll be the same with Ashley Phillips. You bring him on when you got the game now. You're free.
I'm saying in Sheffield United, I don't think he'll start. But I think because Sesky's struggling, I think he'll just chuck him on.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting what's the point FC says here. Forest fans told me that Johnson was forced to play a different role at Forest, so he was restricted. That's interesting. That tells us perhaps he can play multiple positions.
He can play all across the front.
Yeah. And he also scored 18 goals and got 10 assists. That's 28 goal contributions in the Championship, and he'll have better players surrounding him at Spurs. I mean, that's a very good point that what's the point FC makes, because he will have a better group of players around him. He'll have the likes of Maddison, Basuma, Son, all these great players around him. I think at 22 years old as well, his ceiling is going to be high, and the way Ange likes to play, he likes players to sort of express themselves and just play open attacking football. And from what Kulusevski said today as well, everyone actually enjoys going to training again.
And you don't know if Porro's ever going to end up as a winger as well. So you think with Perisic being the age he is, I don't see Perisic getting another contract at Spurs. I mean, and if he doesn't get game time, maybe he might go in January.
Yeah, I mean, look, Perisic coming up to what is 34, 35, coming up to 35. You've got to say this season might be the last season, but he's definitely someone that I think we should keep around, that we can bring on in the second half to calm the team down. From what I've seen of the few games that we've played so far, and he's come on in the second half, he's really calmed the team down. He comes on, he's that reassuring figure in the team, that sort of experienced head that comes in and sort of diffuses everything. So I think in that sense, it's important to keep him around for at least this season, which we will, obviously.
Yeah.
Will he be replaced next season? Let's see what happens. I think there's a good chance he will be. But by that time, hopefully, it'll be even more of a stronger unit. I don't know what you guys think, but I think it's important to have experienced and wise heads in the team as well. And, you can't just have young players all around the pitch. You've got to have some experienced head in that team as well.
This is why I don't mind keeping Højbjerg there. We know he's limited technically, but when he came on against Bournemouth, he did all right for the time he was on. He steadied the ship a bit, He is calm. One thing about Højbjerg, he is calm. And okay, we know his long-term future won't be at Spurs, but we might need people to come in and stiffen the midfield. I mean, this style of football we've got, it might not always work, I mean, so we might get caught on the break and end up losing the game 3 or 4-1 or something. It could happen. So, but on the other hand, it might be the total opposite. We just keep blowing people away, and they just won't know how to cope with us, which would be nice.
I mean, Adrian, a lot of people are saying since Kulusevski has signed his new contract, he doesn't look that interested in playing for Tottenham.
I disagree with that. I just think he doesn't suit where he's playing.
Yeah, I mean, look, and also what's the point is Brennan Johnson looks hungry, more hungry than Kulu and more professional. Yeah, look, I mean, I would say this. It's always healthy to have some competition in that team. It might be the case that Kulu maybe does feel comfortable in that position, thinking, well, no one's really going to take my spot. But with the rival,
goal and half an assist against Man United.
I mean, look, he didn't do too bad, did he?
Start to do that great run into the box and score the goal. So, if you're playing badly and you've scored a goal already and got half an assist or an assist, that's not a bad thing. He's even said, I think he's been quoted as saying, I need to up my game more. We want the Kulu we see when he first come. That's what we want to see.
Yeah, and I think with the arrival of Brennan as well, it just creates even more competition. If you're looking at that, the top half of the pitch, you've got the likes of Son, you've got the likes of Solomon, Kulusevski, Brennan Johnson now, Perisic. You've got so many players now vying for those spots. And that's what we need. We need players that are hungry and competitive to be starting ahead of each other. I think that's what's been missing.
Enough to get in behind Trent when we play Liverpool at home.
Yeah.
And get out a centre back who he's still a good centre back, Van Dijk, but and enough to get out their back too, because that's where I think Liverpool. I'm going off subject a bit. I think Liverpool are weaker at the back than Arsenal.
I think so as well. I really do think they are. They've got a very soft underbelly. However, the midfield's starting to look good for them. And up top, obviously, they're always going to be a threat. With the amount of attacking riches they have up front, it's just ridiculous now. That's Szoboszlai looks absolutely.
Oh, he's a baller, isn't he?
What a signing that is. They've also got McAllister. They have got a lot of players that can hurt us and other teams as well.
Do you think Salah's going to go?
No, I don't think so. I think the window's shutting now anyway, so I think that would have been done by now if he was going to go.
They'll be
Let's talk about 215 million this morning. I was reading.
Yeah, it was 215 million. They said they were going to come back with. However, I think if they're that desperate, they'll still come in for him next season again.
In January, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, but you've had the likes of Benzema at 34 years old going and over to the Saudi League. I'm sure they can wait another season.
Do you think Klopp will go if Salah goes?
Sorry?
Do you think Klopp will go if Salah goes?
No, I don't think so. I think he's rebuilding. He's going for a rebuild at the moment, Adrian.
Yeah.
But obviously to have someone like Salah right now is a luxury, isn't it? I mean, it's someone that you don't want to get rid of. He'll bring you at least 20 goals a season minimum. So
they need to get more out of Nunes as well.
I think Nunes might do well this season now, to be honest.
Yeah.
They're rebuilding that whole team because they had to rebuild the midfield and then they got to rebuild the attack. They kind of started doing that last season too. But I think the next thing they'll try and do is the defense.
Yeah, I mean, the rebuild is well and truly underway there. And I'm quite surprised because apparently Liverpool did go or were interested in Van der Ven as well.
I'm surprised they didn't go for him.
Obviously, having Van Dijk in the team as well, it just would have made sense. But look, it is what it is. We've got a hold of him, and the rest is history, as they say. Yeah. Guys, I think we've touched on pretty much everything that we can touch on, it being an international break and everything else. So what I wanted to sort of, finish the show on was our next Premier League game against Sheffield United and how we see that one going. Obviously for me, it's a very, very important game because of the game that's coming up after that. So, for me, it's a must-win game in order to cushion any sort of unexpected results in the next two games. So, Haz, I'll start with you. How do you see it going and what do you think of the importance of the game? Do you think it's a must-win?
Yeah, I think we will beat Sheffield United. Like I said before, I'm more confident when we're at home. I think we'll get the job done 2 or 3-1, something like that. But yeah, I can see us winning that game quite comfortably, if I'm being honest. It might not be like a battering, but we'll win the game.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Adrian?
Yeah, we'll win. We might have to be a bit patient, though. I think they'll sit back and we're just going to have to find a way through. But if what you want against these teams with low blocks is an early goal, so they've got to come out. And so, and that would suit us. But, it was like Burnley. I was watching the game with friends and I just went, they're all household names. I didn't know any of them playing for Burnley. Same with Sheffield United. This is a new Sheffield United. I don't even know who plays for them, So,
I have nightmares about Sheffield United. Do you know under Poch? They drew 2-2. Was it 2-2? And they should have beaten us at
Has, you need to see your hypnotist. Sort this negativity out.
No, I just remember. It's weird how you remember the bad results. We don't always remember the good ones. Yeah, it's like certain games bring out certain memories.
Everton will beat Arsenal 1-0 again.
If only,
yeah.
And then they'll go into PSV with their confidence crushed while we're in the deck chairs, drinking glasses of wine and eating some cheese, and then we'll go to the Emirates and we'll smash them.
Well, look, I'm with Audio Artisan here. Audio Artisan, big yourself up, by the way. Only a win will do. And yeah, for me, I think against Sheffield United, only a win will do because it keeps the momentum going. It keeps the form going into those two big games against Arsenal and Liverpool. And for me, it's crucial because we have to win against the lesser sides and then, try and pick up results against the bigger sides, the top six. That's how.
I think if you beat all the lesser sides, right, Has, you kind of guarantee Europe.
Yeah. Exactly that. So the signs are good. The signs are that, we will sort of overcome the lesser sides. We've just got too much about us. against the bigger sides. It all comes down to who's got more quality on the day. So look, I think we'll beat Sheffield United. Again, we're coming back from the international break, so I'm not sure what we're going to be like, who's going to start, if we're going to have any injuries. So it all depends on that as well. Nick Brown says, just want us to win versus Sheffield. We owe them one. Yep, absolutely. Paulio thinks it's too early to worry. Paulio, look, we've only got another week of international football and then back to Premier League, mate.
16th it's back, isn't it?
16th it's back. That's next week by my calculation. So it's only around the corner. What's the point? Says, can you give a close up of your running shoes in the background? Has
I assume he meant you.
I don't think I've got any running shoes in my collection, but yeah, I can't really zoom it at the moment. So look, guys, I'm gonna sort of end it with that. Obviously, we will be back next week with further talking points. We'll see where our players are at in terms of injuries and when we've made it through. Has, is there anything else you wanted to touch on?
Nothing really to talk about. Just pray that they don't get injured in the international break.
What's the Wales career result? Anyone got it in the chat?
I think it was 0-0, mate.
Let me check.
0-0 at half time. I just don't know.
Let me check. Give me a second.
I know we had a few of ours playing, didn't we? Roden, Brennan Johnson, Son.
Yeah, finished 0-0.
All right. Okay.
It was a bit of a drab affair.
I watched the first half and nearly fell asleep.
Yeah, it's drab affair. So look, I'll go through the results for anyone that hasn't seen. Finland's beating Kazakhstan 1-0. Lithuania and Montenegro have drawn 2-2. Czech Republic and Albania 1-1. Denmark has absolutely thrashed San Marino 4-0. France have beaten Republic of Ireland 2-0. Holland 3-0 against Greece. I'm sorry, Has. Poland have beaten Faroe Islands 2-0 with a Lewandowski brace. Serbia has lost 2-1 to Hungary. And Northern Ireland have been humbled 4-2 against Slovenia. So there were some non-Euro 2024 internationals as well. Won't go into those ones.
Johnny Evans' own goal. Interesting. And he scored one.
Yeah. Bodes well. I mean, him and the truck at Manchester United.
Oh, Harry Maguire.
Yeah, fantastic. But yeah, guys, we are going to end it there. Just want to say thank you for everyone who's joined us in the chat, and thank you for everyone who's watched the show. Please do give us a like if you like what you see. And if you are new here, or if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the channel and click on the notification bell for our upcoming shows. We will be back next week for the Has vs. Has fan show. Again, same time, 9 p.m. next Thursday. Your next show on A View from the South Stand will probably be on Tuesday with Ashmatic and Marlon, and he will bring you some statistical analysis on few players. It's always a great show with those two. Please make sure you tune in. Guys, where can we catch you this week before we go?
I should have a video about Richarlison versus Son debate on my channel in a couple of days. So by Saturday or Sunday, I think it'll be out. Yeah.
You can find me on Twitter under my handle here. And then there's a link to my Facebook page. We just passed 12,000 members. So we're doing okay. 4 years going, though. We've been going for 4 years. So
4 years. Fantastic stuff. Fantastic. Make sure you get over to Adrian's socials on Facebook and Twitter. His Facebook page has got many followers on there who, all various backgrounds. So, it's a fantastic page. Do go over there and follow Adrian. And likewise, Has as well. It is at the bottom, Hotspur TV. But Has is very much
part of this channel as well.
Crazy as well. He's a greedy one. He's a greedy one.
I'm having a night off. I'm having a night off tomorrow though because there's no game on the weekend.
Excellent. Enjoy your Friday night. And likewise with you as well, Adrian. And likewise to the chat as well. Thank you very much for being a part of the show tonight.
Cheers, guys.
We will catch you back next week. And come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.